The Dallas Cowboys have officially sent shockwaves through the entire NFL landscape with a move that feels less like a routine roster upgrade and more like a declaration of war, because securing Chase Young instantly transforms the identity of this defense and announces to every opposing offensive line that Sundays against Dallas are about to become long, painful, and relentless battles in the trenches. And this isn't just about adding another edge rusher to an already talented unit. This is about changing the psychology of how opponents prepare for the Cowboys week after week, because when a defense suddenly adds a former top 2 overall pick with elite physical traits, explosive first step quickness, and a reputation for wrecking game plans, everything changes from protection schemes to play calling to quarterback confidence, and the ripple effect of this move cannot be overstated. For years, Cowboys fans have begged for a defense that doesn't just react, but dictates, a defense that doesn't rely solely on shootouts, but can shut the door when it matters most. And bringing in Chase Young sends a clear message that Dallas wants to dominate games from the line of scrimmage forward, because pass rush is still the single most disruptive force in football. And now, the Cowboys are stacking it to an almost unfair level. They're creating nightmares for offensive coordinators who already lose sleep preparing for Micah Parsons, because adding Young into the equation means protection plans can no longer simply slide one way or rely on chip help without sacrificing routes and timing downfield. And that is where this move becomes truly devastating, because even the best quarterbacks struggle when the pocket collapses faster than their reads can develop. And Chase Young is built to do exactly that with his rare combination of power, speed, length, and relentless motor, which allows him to win both on the edge and through interior stunts, meaning he doesn't just pressure quarterbacks, he forces them into mistakes, hurried throws, and bad decisions that turn into turnovers. And when you place him in a Cowboys defense that already thrives on speed, aggression, and chaos, the potential becomes terrifying for the rest of the league. What makes this signing even more fascinating is the timing, because Dallas clearly understands that the modern NFL is won by disrupting elite quarterbacks in critical moments, and playoff football in particular is about who can control the trenches when the game tightens up. And too often in recent seasons, the Cowboys have fallen just short in those moments. Not because of lack of talent, but because opposing quarterbacks were able to find just enough time to make plays. And now, with Chase Young joining the rotation, that margin disappears, because you can't double everyone and you can't protect forever. And eventually someone is coming free, and that someone is likely arriving with bad intentions. This move also signals a deeper shift in organizational mindset, because Dallas didn't just settle for rotational depth or safe signings. They went after a player who still carries superstar upside, a player who believes he has something to prove, and that combination of talent and motivation is often where the most dangerous seasons are born, because Chase Young entering a Cowboys locker room filled with competitive leaders and championship expectations creates an environment where complacency simply doesn't survive. And from the first practice snap, the energy level rises, because offensive linemen in practice are suddenly pushed harder. Quarterbacks have to speed up their process, and the entire team benefits from the intensity that elite defensive pressure creates. And that's before we even get to game day, where the real damage happens. Imagine being an opposing offensive tackle preparing for Dallas, knowing that even if you survive Micah Parsons for a series, Chase Young is coming fresh off the edge the next snap. And if you start to cheat your stance or overset to compensate, that's when the inside move hits. And suddenly the quarterback is on the ground before the play even has a chance to develop. And these are the moments that change games, because sacks aren't just lost yardage, they are drive killers, momentum shifters, crowd igniters, and confidence crushers. And AT&T Stadium thrives on moments like that, where the noise builds and the defense feeds off the energy, turning pressure into an avalanche that few teams can stop once it starts rolling. And beyond the physical impact, Chase Young's presence also brings a psychological edge because defenses play faster when they know pressure is coming. Defensive backs can be more aggressive in coverage. Linebackers can shoot gaps without hesitation, and suddenly the entire unit looks sharper, more confident, and more coordinated because everything starts up front. And when the front four or front seven can generate pressure without excessive blitzing, it unlocks the full playbook for defensive coordinators, allowing them to disguise coverages, bait quarterbacks, and force mistakes. And this is where Dallas can truly elevate from a good defense to a dominant one, because the foundation is now strong enough to support complexity and creativity rather than desperation. This signing also sends a message to the rest of the NFC that Dallas is not content with being competitive. They want to be feared, because in a conference loaded with elite offenses and quarterback talent, the fastest way to separate yourself is to make life miserable for those quarterbacks. And Chase Young does exactly that when he's at his best, and even beyond the stat sheet, his impact shows up in rush throws, broken plays, and offensive coordinators abandoning parts of their game plan because they simply don't have time to execute them. And that's the kind of influence that doesn't always show up in box scores, but wins games in January. Cowboys fans have long dreamed of a defense that could carry the team when the offense has an off night. And this move brings that vision closer to reality, because when you can pressure the quarterback consistently, you don't need perfection on offense, you just need enough. And that balance is what championship teams are built on, not just highlights and star power, but trench dominance and situational control. And Chase Young fits that mold perfectly as a player who thrives in big moments and feeds off the challenge of facing the best competition. The excitement around this move is already palpable because fans understand what this can mean, not just for regular season success, but for playoff matchups where every snap is magnified, every mistake is punished, and every pressure matters. And when Dallas lines up against elite teams knowing they can win the physical battle up front, that confidence spreads throughout the roster, because football is still a game of belief as much as execution, and belief grows when you know you have players who can tilt the field in your favor. It's also important to recognize how this move fits into the broader culture Dallas is building, one centered around speed, aggression, accountability, and relentless effort. Because Chase Young at his best embodies all of those traits, and when surrounded by teammates who demand excellence, his ceiling becomes even higher, because great players often elevate their game when placed in environments that challenge them daily, and Dallas offers exactly that. From the practice field to the bright lights of national broadcasts, where every snap is scrutinized and every performance matters, opposing offensive lines will now spend entire weeks preparing for Dallas, adjusting protections, changing launch points, and altering play designs just to survive. And even then, it might not be enough, because pressure isn't just about scheme, it's about winning one-on-one battles, and Chase Young is built to win those battles with violence and precision, turning technical skill into raw disruption. And that's why this move resonates so deeply with Cowboys fans, because it represents a return to defensive intimidation, a throwback to eras where teams feared lining up against Dallas, knowing they were in for a physical, exhausting game. And that identity has been missing at times in recent years, but now it feels like it's coming back in full force. As the season approaches and anticipation builds, the question is no longer whether this defense can compete, but how high its ceiling truly is, because with Chase Young added to the mix, Dallas has the pieces to be special, to dominate stretches of games, and to impose their will in ways that don't rely on offensive fireworks alone. And that balance is what makes great teams dangerous, unpredictable, and difficult to eliminate. And as fans look ahead to matchups across the league, there's a growing sense that something has shifted, that the Cowboys are no longer just a talented team hoping things break right, but a force actively shaping outcomes through sheer physical presence and relentless pressure. And if Chase Young delivers anywhere near his full potential in Dallas, opposing offensive lines won't just be challenged, they'll be overwhelmed. Quarterbacks won't just be hurried, they'll be rattled, and the Cowboys won't just be contenders, they'll be a weekly nightmare that no team looks forward to facing, because when a defense can attack from every angle, collapse pockets in seconds, and turn games into survival tests, that's when football tilts in your favor. And that's exactly what this move represents for Dallas. A bold step toward dominance.